Mormons believe in a very, very detailed afterlife. This is how it works. You die and you're sent to either spirit prison or spirit paradise. This is a limbo. This isn't permanent. You're here until the millennium. At this point, you're sifted into different kingdoms. Celestial kingdom is the best. Terrestrial kingdom is okay. Telestial is bad. Outer darkness is the worst. That's where Satan lives. Only people who go to the celestial kingdom get to have children forever and have their own planets. And then you start it over and you do it all yourself with you're a god now, and that's your planet and your rules and your kids and all that. It's pretty cool stuff. Who doesn't want their own planet? I had figured out ways that I would compensate for not going to the temple. I was like, okay, I will pray more. I'll read my scriptures more. I'll still go to church. I decided I can be Mormon on my own terms. I'll be my own kind of Mormon. So that was January. And then in February, the LDS Church excommunicated two very big figures within the Mormon community who were questioning things, John DeLynn and Kate Kelly. For some reason, that really made something snap for me because I thought that was so cruel. And I just kept thinking, if people are struggling and if people are lost, like you say, why aren't you helping them? Why aren't you encircling them with love? That was when I submitted my resignation to the church. I was afraid I would be excommunicated because I was supportive of LGBT movements, because I was supportive of women's rights movements, and a lot of people, those things escalate down to excommunication. If you leave Mormonism, you can just not go, but your name will still be on the records. They'll still find you, they'll still visit you, they'll send missionaries, unless you resign. I told myself like, oh, well, I mean, I still believe in God. I still believe in Jesus, but I just don't believe in it within this realm of Mormonism. And so I toyed with the ideas like, oh, maybe I'll become a Quaker or something. They aren't sexist to women. It's like, maybe I'll become a Buddhist, They believe in like being good stewards of the earth and things. And then I realized that I didn't believe anything. Honestly, the first time I heard myself say, I don't believe the Book of Mormon is true, the words surprised me. I heard myself say the words and I was like, that's where I am. Whoa. I started to feel like it was all made up. The dominoes were toppling. I was like, if this, then that. If not this, then not that. So I was like, if there is a God, maybe he's in a different church, or maybe there's no God. Once I realized that, there was no turning back. It's like hearing about the tooth fairy. Like as soon as you're about the tooth fairy, you're like, okay, that's it for Santa. Up until that point, I hadn't really been super open with my husband about what I was experiencing. The day I told him that I didn't believe in the Book of Mormon, I timed it very carefully. We were on our way home from a road trip to my parents' house in Virginia. We had literally just pulled out past the traffic light to get on the road. 5.5 hours ahead of us. And I said, Ben, what would happen if I didn't believe the Book of Mormon was true? And he was silent for about 12 minutes. And finally he said, well, we'd have to talk about it. And I was like, yeah, we would have to talk about it. And he was like, what happened? And, all these words bubbled out of me. I was like, well, they excommunicated John DeLynn and this, and what about gay people, and what about this? And I talked and talked and talked for hours. And finally, he said, I'm going to need some time to think about this. Can we not talk about it for a week? And then we'll talk about it. And for a week, I basically braced for him to ask me to for a divorce. Like, I thought that was it, because it's very uncommon to see a mixed religion marriage within Mormonism. So a week went by. I was like, okay, let's talk. And he was just so heartbroken, and he looked at me and he just said, is there anything that I could say to make you change your mind? And I had to tell him, no, like, there's nothing. There's nothing you can say that will fix this. I love you, and you're the most important thing in my life, but I can't be a part of this religion because of what's happening and because of things that I feel in my gut are wrong. And he was so quiet and so tender and so heartbroken, and he just told me, I still believe. I believe. What does this mean? And I said, if you want, I will go to church with you. I will read scriptures with you. I will pray with you. I'll do this with you for 6 weeks if that will make you happy. And he was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Like, we'll just be really, really good because, and he bore his testimony to me. Like, I know it's true, and I believe you'll change your mind. And I didn't. I wrote an email to all of my siblings and my parents, and I called my mom on the phone first to tell her, and she cried, and I cried, and she told me she loved me, and some of the things that I told her that I struggle with, she said, I understand. I've had that same struggle. I found a different conclusion, but I understand. And I felt so accepted by her, and it really encouraged me when I told my siblings. They accepted it pretty gracefully. My sisters told me, I love you no matter what, and they left it at that, and I believe them. And most of my siblings were like, this changes nothing. I'd had that great phone call with my mom, but after I sent out the email, she kind of changed her tune. She sent me an email. I need to tell you that you're making a mistake. You need to pray, read your scriptures every day. And she would send me a scripture every day. And finally, I told her that I loved her and I respected her, but that if she sent me scriptures, I would not email her anymore. Then it was like, I'm your mom. I love you. I'm just trying to do the best I can. I was like, I understand, but you can't do that for us to have a relationship. And I don't know, things got better after that. I told Ben's parents in person, and they were so kind and so supportive and so accepting in person. Ben was with his parents, and his dad asked him if he'd, considered divorce yet. The eternal family was in jeopardy because of my disbelief. So for his father, the solution is simple. You know what? Marry someone else, start over. And that was honestly the first thing that I think pushed Ben away from belief. His father, whom he loved, who was actually, I think he was in a bishopric, like he was in a leadership position, was telling him that his relationship with me and his son's relationship with me and his love for me weren't enough, that wasn't enough. We had a split for a while where I did not talk to my in-laws. But I guess I owe them, because that was really the beginning of my husband starting to question whether the belief system is right and healthy and good. If the fruit of your belief is that I should destroy my marriage, honestly, the biggest consequence that I was afraid of was, my marriage. And I'm very, very fortunate that my spouse came to a place where we were very much on the same page. Resigning was a lot harder for me than it is for people now. Now there are actually lawyers who will process your resignation for free. I did not have that. So I sent in a formal letter. I went on Reddit and I found what words you have to say. And it is hard. You have to have the date you were baptized, which most people don't remember. I submitted my resignation in February and I heard nothing. Submitted it again in May, still nothing. I emailed and I said, I would like to discuss the status of my resignation. Bishop didn't email me back. He emailed my husband and said, I would love to meet with you. And I emailed back from his account and I said, hey, this is Mary, still wondering about the status of my records. Bishop emailed back again, addressing Ben and said, "I would love to meet over lunch to discuss your wife's records." Ben emailed back and just said, "No, thank you. Please just process the resignation." So they did, and I got my letter 2 weeks later. Kind of felt like getting my letter from Hogwarts, and then I cried, because it meant that it was real, and it meant that if I ever wanted to go back, I would have to be rebaptized. I'd have to get remarried in the temple. I'd have to go through the endowment again, which I'm okay with. If I was ever to believe that again, I would have to be in a place where I was ready to start fresh. I think the reason why people choose religion and why they choose even Mormonism is this vision that you will be okay after you die, that your children will be okay after they die, that your parents who have died will be okay. I call it a fairy tale from where I'm standing, but for the people who believe, I know that it's a hope that they have. And it's a tangible hope. They believe that it's as real as your hand in front of your face, as the hair on your head. It's real. So I have that picture of the last day I went through the temple, and I see my face and the clothes that I'm wearing, and I know that there are garments on my body, and I look at that version of me, and I feel that that person is dead, and that feels strange. And sometimes I have to pause and process that and why I feel that way. I am a different person, but at the same time, I am who I've always been, but I'm feeding different parts of myself. It's like I switched from batteries to solar, Instead of having a thing that I insert into my life to give me the things that I think I want, I generate those things myself, and I cultivate those things myself. And so I feel really empowered by the choices that I make instead of compelled by the things I feel like I'm supposed to do. And it's a different happiness that it's enough for me.
And slowly but surely, the garden I dreamed of has become a reality. The hard, disheartening earth that resisted all our efforts has become friendly, workable soil, yielding new miracles with every changing season.